Good evening and welcome to the regular council meeting of Monday, April 28th, 2026, held in person and online. I note that the quorum has been reached and declare the meeting open. Please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast live. While I provide my opening remarks in English, you are welcome to address me in French or English, and I will respond in the language of your choice. If at any point you would like a response translated, simply raise your hand. Veuillez noter que cette séance est enregistrée et diffusée en direct. Bien que je fasse mes remarques d'ouverture en anglais, vous êtes invité à vous adresser à moi en français ou en anglais et je vous répondrai dans la langue de votre choix. Si à un moment donné, vous souhaitez qu'une réponse soit traduite, il vous suffira de lever la main. On April 16th, Hudson hosted an annual blood drive in partnership with Emma Quebec. The goal was 60 donors, 70 people showed up, 8 of them gave blood for the first time. The donors ranged in age from 19 to 79, which tells you something about the town. Those 60 units of collected blood will be transformed into approximately 180 biological products for patients in Quebec's public hospitals. I want to thank everyone who came out and the Emma Quebec team for their care and professionalism throughout the day. I also would like to thank the staff who put this on with Emma Quebec. This is a community in its most literal form. This Saturday, May 3rd, Hudson holds its by-election for District 3. I see a candidate in the room. The center of town. Last Sunday's advanced polling brought out 81 voters, so that represents 9.2% of 881 eligible electors in the affected district. Civic participation is how a community keeps itself honest. It is how residents hold their elected officials to account and how elected officials remain grounded in the people they serve. I encourage everyone in the Central District who has not yet voted to do so on Sunday. Your voice shapes the town we are building together for ourselves and for the generations who will inherit it. With regards to 2 Royal View on the agenda this evening, as mentioned last month, the town has received a notice of intent to sell the property, which is subject to a right of preemption or first right of refusal in favor of the town. This means the town has the right to acquire the property under the same terms as the current offer, at a purchase price of, in this case, $1.3 million, which is consistent with market value. The town has until May 1st of 2026 to decide whether to exercise that right. Should the town proceed, the purchase would be funded through existing allocated surpluses with no new borrowing required. On the Sandy Beach file, the grant from the Communauté Métropolitaine de Montréal will take a few months more to come in. Until then, the town will proceed with engaging the long-term financing under its existing borrowing bylaw while maintaining a temporary loan for the purchase of 2 Royal View until the CMM grant is received. With regards to Sandy Beach, the elaboration of the conservation plan is underway, and I am pleased to announce that the town will be marking this acquisition with a public event at the entrance of Sandy Beach Conservation Area on May 24th. More details will follow, so please put the date in your calendar. On the capital investment side, the pedestrian bridge repairs at Jack Layton Park, so that is connecting Jack Layton Park to the conservation area, and the outdoor pool work remain on track to be completed before the pre-seasons begin. There will be an official opening at the Cambridge Park Pickleball Courts on Saturday, May 16th, 2026, from 10 a.m. until noon, with a ribbon-cutting ceremony with the town crier, Chris Gobel, followed by friendly pickleball matches and demonstrations, light refreshments. The event will be open to all, and we look forward to seeing you there. And please note as well that the REM Lance Alarme, the branch will open on May 18th of 2026, so that's this month in 3 weeks about, extending rapid transit service to the West Island with 4 new stations in Pointe-Claire, Kirkland, and St. Anne-Bellevue. And for Hudson residents who commute into Montreal, this is a meaningful change in how accessible that connection becomes. Bus routes have been adjusted to facilitate connections to the new stations, so we encourage residents to explore what this means for their daily travels. With regards to community events, there's a long list of them that are available on the town's website. If I were to pick just a few, so for example, on Friday, May the 2nd, the Nishwara World Migration Bird Day is happening from 10 to 2 p.m. Coffee with the Mayor is taking place this Saturday at 10 till noon at Halco Cottage, 539 Main. There's a board game night at the War Memorial Library from 6 to 7:30 on Wednesday, May 7th. And of course, all of our other standard events. So please take a look on the website, and hopefully we will see you around these events. So moving now to the adoption of the agenda, so item 1.1. This resolution is that the agenda of the regular council meeting of April 28th, 2026 is hereby adopted as submitted. So I will need a mover. En français, pardon.
1.1, adoption de l'ordre du jour. Que l'ordre du jour de la séance ordinaire du Conseil du 28 avril 2026 soit adopté tel que soumis.
Merci. Do I have a mover to my right? Bob Johnson. To my left, Reed Thompson. Are there any objections with this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Section 2, confirmation of minutes. Item 2.1, confirmation of minutes. This resolution is that the minutes of the council meeting held on March 24th, 2026 be and are hereby approved as submitted. En français.
2.1, adoption des procès-verbaux. Que le procès-verbal de la séance ordinaire du 24 mars 2026 soit approuvé par les présents tel que soumis.
Merci. Do I have a mover to my left? Reed Thompson, supported by Darren Legault. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. So I now open the first question period, and as usual, we will alternate between in the room and online. So online, there are currently 21 participants, and I invite you to raise your hands if you have a question. Otherwise, in the room, please come to the microphone and bring your question.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I'm Laurie Rubin, Brisbane. I'm also on the Sandy Beach Conservancy and on the board of directors as well, as you can see. So I just wanted to make a comment, and I'll finish with a question regarding something that I believe is on the agenda tonight concerning Royal View and the purchase of Royal View. First of all, once again, you've heard it many times from all of us, but I want to thank all of you here today for the fact that Sandy Beach is ours, and for having the courage and vision and listening to your people and making it happen after so many years. So thank you, and the gratitude will always be there, and this will certainly be a legacy in your hat, Mayor Hutchison.
All of
thank
council.
You.
And past council. There's at least 2 councillors in the room as well who deserve, and all of the others who are not in this room as well. Yes, thank you.
So regarding Royal View, we don't know how things are going to play out tonight, but you know, we're looking at making Sandy Beach whole again, or finally, or however you want to call it. Our group, like I said, I'm one of the 4 members of our directors, board of directors, plus we have a large support group, hundreds of people, and we have been doing a lot currently behind the scenes in terms of skill building, educating ourselves as to how grassroots movements can help support the towns in preserving natural spaces. We have met with directors of other organizations, like-minded organizations in other towns and other cities around here. We've gone on day trips. We have a workshop plan. We're doing a lot. That may not be too obvious. And we're doing this all with the intent of helping in some way to keep the Sandy Beach area clean, to keep the people educated, to conserve, protect, and do everything we can to make this space something that we can really be proud of. I think you all know we've done in the past a lot of fundraising, so we do have, I mean, not millions of dollars, but we have some money that's in an account right now. And we are waiting, so that leads to a question to find out from all of you how we can be of service, how we can collaborate with all of you, how we can use the money, the donations that people have generously made in order to make this project something that shines and something that works for the town, for the residents, and all the visitors. So that is the question. It's not really framed as a question, but it is the question because I guess you can say the ball is in your court. We're waiting to hear from you. We have skills now that maybe we didn't before when we were in our infancy, but we've grown up a little bit now. We're more young adults at this point. So let us know if you can. Thank you.
No, I thank you for the question, and I would like to know more about what you've been working on, who you've met, what you've learned from that process, what that has brought to everything that you envision for the site and for the town and that relationship. So I think we need to have a longer discussion on that. I also with regards to funds, then it's always interesting for us to know what type of funds are you talking about. Is it a question of hundreds, thousands? But I believe a lot of that will become clear through the conservation and management plan for Sandy Beach, and you are one of the stakeholders that will be contacted and with whom the plan will be developed, right? As you know, there is consultations that will be happening at large, but there will then be more specific consultations. So I think a lot of those answers will also come through there. But as I'd mentioned to one of your, I believe a spokesperson in your group, I hold the Coffee with the Mayor on every Saturday following the council meeting. And you're more than welcome to attend those or to sit with me afterwards and to sort of paint the big picture that you have in mind, and then we can try to find some sort of areas of overlap, and then I would bring that back to council. Or basically say, I think you're ready to present your project maybe further if you have one already in mind, but I do think that the best channel is the conservation and management plan process, which is ongoing currently.
Thank you. We're going to take those ideas into account, certainly. Thank you for that. And again, thanks to all of you.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Are there any questions online? There is one. Jim Duff, please go ahead.
Yes, good evening. I'm on my phone because my computer is too old to get online. I wanted to get a sense from you about how we're going to repair the damage to the trail network that we have suffered as a result of this heavy frost and followed by the thaw. And there's a lot of damage on the Bradbury Trail. And it continues to degrade. And a lot of people have commented on it. We're doing our best to just sort of lend a helping hand. And Public Works has done a really good job of keeping the trail basically open, but it certainly needs work. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering, is there any plan afoot with the Public Works, with Parks and Recreation, to do any further remedial work on the trail network?
Thank you for your question. The plan is the same as it has been, which is to do remedial or corrections to the bridges as the budget is there. I believe I saw a footbridge being repaired recently on Bradbury Trail, but I agree with you, the rest of the trail network, there are some areas that definitely require some love and tender care. We are, of course, limited with the staff that we have, and we're looking to put the major focus in the center of town. I would believe that the actual widening of the trails in terms of cutting the trails, that is something that has come up several times where a lot of people feel that with the ticks and also the invasive species, that's something that's better to keep a broader, a wider strip. So I think that comment has probably made its way through into sort of standard operations. But per se, there isn't like a plan that says, well, in this month, we're going to be fixing those footbridges, or we're going to be looking after Davidson Trail or others. I think that's an interesting question. It is one that I would feel falls under asset management. And it certainly came up through our parks and green space plans. So the fact that you're bringing it up is helpful because it keeps it fresh in our mind. But at this time, beyond just general maintenance, we do not have a specific plan.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome. I saw someone was coming to the microphone. Bonjour, Benoit.
Hello, hello. So in my case, I was still in favor of saving Sandy Beach, still in looking to buy 2 Royal View, but not at every cost. Mm-hmm. So just set a bit some stat. They bought in 21 for $780. They mortgaged it with Briva Finance for $1 million at 25% interest. They want to sell it for $1.3 million after 5 years, so an increase of 67%. Some people are complaining that we paid too much for Sandy Beach. That's their opinion. There's people who are saying that we have not charged enough, but if we apply the same rate per meter square, the value of the 2 Royal View should be $481. I could be wrong, most likely, but twice the amount to bring it to $962, unlikely. My question is, we are looking to build a new town hall that will cost more than $3 million, a new garage that will cost more than $3 million, a fire truck that will cost more than $1 million, paving main that will cost more than $400, park that we should spend more than $300,000 per year. Saint Lazare is intending to invest in a youth park for $9.6 million. Normal paving, we're saying $1 million per year. We will need sewage, repair, and everything. Can we afford to buy for $1.3 million the 2 Royal View? And on what base can you justify it? That's the question.
No, I like your questions, Benoit. I miss you at the table. I do. So on evaluation, it is the accepted purchase price is $1.3 million. So our first right of refusal comes in at that amount. We asked ourselves the same questions, and if you remember when we were doing the preparation for assessing whether we should or could, and at what price would we buy Sandy Beach, we went through an evaluation through an external land appraiser. I don't know if you remember that. We also had 2 Royal View assessed at the same time, as we expected that eventually this question would come to the table. So that evaluation dates back to 2024, and it gives an amount that is around there, 1.2. And so that's, the assessment was done October of 2024, and as you know, based on market value, that basically is several months before, it can be expected that the value of that property would have increased since then. So it's reasonably close from that point of view as well. The role assessment, le rôle d'évaluation pour les taxes municipales, right, for the municipal taxes, that was done by an independent, so different person who does the 3-year triennial plan or triennial assessment for the entire town. He also increased that value to around that amount, 1.1, 1.2, I don't remember it by heart. So that's 2 indicators that tell us that we're in the right ballpark in terms of amounts. It is a buildable lot. The new flood maps are not going to have a substantial impact when they are adopted. Right now, they're not currently adopted. And so we either seize this opportunity or we don't, and the price continues to go up as land continues to increase in value. So that is, there is several due diligences that we did in terms of the value of the property. That's how we went about it. I hope that answers your question. Can we afford it? Because the town hall project has now the construction of it, not necessarily all of the design, but is probably going to be, will be in the next term, that amount in the PTI then can be reassigned to buildings, but also to this purchase. And as you know, we still have la taxe de bienvenue, so how do you call that? Well, no, but it has a taxe de transfert, transfer tax? Transfer tax.
Mutation tax. Mutation tax.
Mutation tax, thank you. So there's other sources of revenue that continue to come in, and because also we have accepted the $2 million from the CMM for the purchase of Sandy Beach, that does liberate. So remember that we were ready to acquire Sandy Beach without that CMM subsidy. Now that we have accepted it, it gives us a little bit more breathing room as well. You have to come to the microphone, otherwise people online won't hear you.
I think the question is more like, when I was quoting all those projects, if we have the tendency of underestimating the cost of our project.
Absolutely.
So for the next 20, 30 years, when we add project like the 1.3, it's money that we will no longer have in 5 years, 10 years,
I have a
20 years.
similar concern, and it is, we're going to have to make hard choices. Right now, environment is the one that we have prioritized, but we will continue to have to tighten our belts as we see other areas are going to have to tighten their belts as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions online? There are none. Luc Dion?
J'avais un peu la même ligne,
Vous pouvez parler en français si vous voulez.
un peu la même ligne de question que Benoît concernant le 2 Royal View. Vous avez mentionné dans votre réponse à Benoît que les nouvelles cartes des zones inondables ne devraient pas avoir beaucoup d'impact. Moi, j'ai essayé de fouiller pour voir c'est quoi ces nouvelles cartes-là, puis je n'ai pas trouvé rien d'officiel, mais qu'est-ce qu'on a comme information? Qu'est-ce que vous avez vu comme information pour être capable d'affirmer que les nouvelles zones inondables n'auront pas d'impact? Parce que dans mon esprit, s'il y a une extension de la zone inondable sur cette propriété-là, 1,3, c'est trop payé.
Dans ce secteur-là, c'est un des points qui est le plus haut en termes de niveau. Là, hein. Vous le voyez, ça a pas vraiment, il n'y a pas eu vraiment d'impact avec la hausse des eaux récemment. Mais la source de ces cartes, en fait, c'est la CMM qui les a montées, les cartes, pour le ministère. Et c'est aussi la CMM qui se porte garante auprès du ministère pour lorsque ces cartes vont être adoptées, qui en fera, si on veut, la gestion. Mais je ne peux pas trop rentrer dans les détails parce que là, on rentre dans du technique, puis probablement que je vais me tromper, donc je préfère pas trop rentrer, mais c'est la CMM qui nous a fourni à titre informatif, donc qui les a fournis à toutes les municipalités qui sont impliquées, qui sont affectées par les inondations. Et ça nous permet justement de comprendre où seront les impacts de ces nouvelles cartes. Donc, on est capable ensuite, avec les superpositions, de regarder exactement c'est quoi la différence entre les cartes actuelles et les cartes proposées. Donc, la zone 10, la zone d'intervention spéciale, déjà est plus forte que les cartes d'inondation de base. Donc, les nouvelles cartes, en fait, reflètent pas mal les zones d'intervention spéciale avec lesquelles on travaille, puis j'y vais de mémoire, depuis 2019. Donc, vraiment, il y a pas... C'est dans la différence des catégories, ce qu'on appelait 0-20 ans et ces choses-là qui changent. Maintenant, c'est plus par velocity et niveau de risque. Donc, c'est un peu différent de la manière qu'ils comptabilisent le risque. Mais dans cette zone-là, il y a le droit de construction en autant qu'ils utilisent des mesures d'étanchéisation des sous-sols, par exemple. Donc, ils ont le droit de construire. Puis, la plupart des zones qui sont même dans les zones, des lots qui sont dans les zones jaunes, il y a comme 4 gradations, la jaune, orange, orange foncé et rouge. Donc, cette carte-là est pas mal dans le jaune. Dans le jaune, on a le droit de construire tant qu'ils utilisent des mesures d'imperméabilisation de la construction. Bienvenue. Are there any questions online? I see none, and there is no one else at the microphone, so we will continue with this evening's agenda. Section 3, Urban Planning and Environment. So for the files related to TPAC, as the president of the committee. I basically stood in for him during the last town planning advisory meeting since you were absent. And Mark Stenberg is the other elected person on TPAC. I will open each of those items and Matt will do the reading that usually Reed will do. So section 3, I mentioned it. Item 3.1, SPAPE approval, April 2026. So please go ahead.
Forgive my voice, I'm not 100% vocally here. Whereas the requests were received at the Town Planning Advisory Committee at the meeting held on March 31st, 2026, this resolution is to approve the SPAPE of the following projects: 312 Main, major renovation works, approbation by majority. 312 Main, accessory building, approbation by majority. 647 Main, accessory building, unanimous approbation. 725 Main, accessory building, unanimous approbation.
En français.
3.1, approbation des PIA, avril 2026. Considérant que les demandes ont été analysées par le CCU lors de la rencontre du 31 mars 2026, cette résolution a pour but d'approuver le PIA relatif aux demandes suivantes. 312 Main, travaux de rénovation majeure, approbation à la majorité. 312 Main, bâtiments accessoires, approbation à la majorité. 647 Main, bâtiments accessoires, approbation à l'unanimité. Et 725 Main, bâtiments accessoires, approbation à l'unanimité.
Merci. Do I have a mover to my left? Mark Gray to my right, supported by Bob Johnson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.2, 68, Osakoa, SPAPE, major renovation works. Matt?
This resolution, whereas the permit request was received for major renovation work on 68 Osakoa, whereas bylaw number 571 concerning site planning and architectural integration programs indicates objectives and criteria to fulfill this type of permit application, whereas the Town Planning Advisory Committee's recommendation by majority to refuse the SPAPE in support of the permit request be it resolved, whereas the following criteria are not met: to ensure the exterior walls have a significant percentage of openings, doors, and windows, to prioritize sustainable construction techniques. It is resolved to refuse SPAPE of the permit request on 68 Osakoa.
3.2, 68 Osakoa, PIA, travaux de rénovation majeure. Considérant qu'une demande de permis a été reçue pour des travaux de rénovation majeure pour le 68 Osakoa, considérant que le règlement 571 sur les plans d'implantation et d'intégration architecturale, PIIA, indique des objectifs et critères à respecter pour une demande de ce type, considérant la recommandation majoritaire du comité consultatif d'urbanisme de refuser le PIA relatif à la demande de permis, considérant que les critères d'évaluation non remplis sont les suivants: assurer que les murs extérieurs comportent un pourcentage significatif d'ouvertures, portes et fenêtres, et privilégier les techniques de construction durables. Cette résolution a pour but de refuser le PIA relatif à la demande de permis pour le 68 Osakoa.
Merci. Do I have a mover to my left? Mark Gray, supported by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.3, 712 Main, SPAPE, new detached single-family construction. Matt?
Whereas the adoption of Resolution R 2025-04-68 concerning the refusal of the SPAPE of the permit request on 712 Main. Whereas the applicants have been informed of the reasons of their refusal. Whereas a new permit was received for the new detachment single-family dwelling on 712 Main. Whereas the Town Planning Advisory Committee studied the request during the meeting held March 31st, 2026. Whereas the Town Planning Advisory Committee's unanimous recommendation to refuse the SPAPE in support of the permit request of the detached single-family dwelling. Whereas no changes have been made to the plan since last submission in fall of 2025. Whereas the following criteria were not met: to ensure the architecture reflects a rural or resort-style character to blend in with the surrounding buildings and area, to ensure the architectural elements respect the architectural character of the building. It is resolved to refuse the SPAPE of the permit request for the detached single-family dwelling on 712 Main.
3.3, 712 Main, PIA, nouvelle construction unifamiliale isolée. Considérant l'adoption de la résolution R2025-04-68 visant le refus du PIA relatif à la demande de permis pour le 712 Main, considérant que les demandeurs ont été informés des motifs de refus, considérant qu'une nouvelle demande de permis a été reçue pour une nouvelle résidence unifamiliale isolée pour le 712 Main, considérant que le comité consultatif d'urbanisme a traité ce dossier lors de la rencontre du 31 mars 2026, considérant la recommandation unanime du comité consultatif d'urbanisme de refuser le PIA relatif à la demande de permis de la résidence unifamiliale isolée, considérant qu'aucune modification n'a été apportée au plan de la résidence unifamiliale isolée depuis la dernière soumission à l'automne 2025, considérant que les critères d'évaluation non remplis sont les suivants: assurer une architecture à caractère rural ou villégiature, afin d'être en harmonie avec les bâtiments et le secteur environnant, et assurer que les éléments architecturaux respectent le caractère architectural du bâtiment. Cette résolution a pour but de refuser le PIA relatif à la demande de permis de la résidence unifamiliale isolée pour le 712 Main.
Merci. Do I have a mover to my left? Mark Gray, and supported to my right by Bob Johnson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.4, 539 Main, work on a designated heritage property. Whereas roof replacement work is planned for Halcrow Cottage located at 539 Main, whereas the work is subject to a recommendation from the Town Planning Advisory Committee for a decision by Town Council, whereas the unanimous recommendation from the committee, this resolution is to approve the proposed work on Halcrow Cottage located at 539 Main.
3.4, 539 Main, travaux sur un bâtiment cité. Considérant que des travaux de remplacement de la toiture sont projetés sur la maison Halcrow, située au 539 Main, considérant que les travaux sont assujettis à une recommandation par le comité consultatif d'urbanisme avant la décision du conseil municipal, considérant la recommandation unanime favorable du comité, cette résolution a pour but d'approuver les travaux projetés sur la maison Halcrow située au 539 Main.
Merci. Do I have a mover to my right? Matt Stenberg. To my left, Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hands. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.5, authorization and support, grant application to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, Growing Canada's Community Canopy Program for Urban Forestry Plan. Whereas the Town of Hudson wishes to ensure sustainable and proactive management of the forest cover, whereas one of the guiding principles of the Town of Hudson's cultural policy deals with the environment and sustainability, as well as the importance of preserving its natural heritage, whereas Nature Action Québec will also be able to undertake the drafting of the urban forestry plan and estimates the total cost at $198,694, and that according to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Growing Canada Community Canopies, the town must contribute This resolution is to authorize an expenditure of $35,501 over 3 years funded from the tree planting designated surplus, and to authorize Naturaction Québec to submit a funding application under the Canadian Federation of Municipalities, Canadian Communities Canopy Growth Initiative for a project to develop an urban forestry plan in partnership with the town of Hudson, and to authorize the Environment Division Head to sign all documents necessary for the grant application.
3.5, autorisation et appui. Demande de financement au programme Croissance de la canopée des collectivités canadiennes de la Fédération canadienne des municipalités, plan de foresterie urbaine. Considérant la volonté de la Ville d'Hudson d'assurer une gestion durable et anticipative du couvert forestier, considérant qu'un des principes directeurs de la politique culturelle de la Ville d'Hudson traite de l'environnement et de la durabilité en passant par l'importance de la préservation du patrimoine naturel, considérant que Nature Action Québec pourra aussi entreprendre la rédaction d'un plan de foresterie urbaine et estime les coûts totaux à 198 694 $ et que selon le programme Croissance de la canopée des collectivités canadiennes de la Fédération canadienne des municipalités, la Ville doit contribuer une contrepartie. Cette résolution a pour but d'autoriser une dépense de 35 501 $ sur 3 ans, financée à même le surplus affecté plantation d'arbres, d'autoriser Nature Action Québec à présenter une demande de financement dans le cadre de l'initiative Croissance de la canopée des collectivités canadiennes de la Fédération canadienne des municipalités pour le projet de rédaction d'un plan de foresterie urbaine en partenariat avec la Ville d'Hudson, et d'autoriser la chef de division environnement à signer tous les documents nécessaires à la demande de financement.
Do I have a mover? To my left, Mark Gray, supported by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.6, awarding of contract AO 2026-13-ENV, branch collection and disposal. Whereas branch collections are planned on May 4th, June 15th, and October 13th of 2026, whereas the call for tender by invitation AO-2026-13-ENV was issued by the town on March 5th of 2026, whereas the bids received were opened publicly on March 26th of 2026, whereas the following bids were received. Émile Mongrain at $63,450, Trees and Beyond at $114,000. This resolution is to award to Émile Mongrain, lowest conforming bidder, the contract for branch collection and disposal for an amount of $63,450 before taxes.
3.6, octroi de contrat AO 2026-13-ENV, collecte et disposition de branches. Considérant que les collectes de branches sont prévues le 4 mai, le 15 juin et le 13 octobre 2026, considérant que l'appel d'offres sur invitation AO-2026-13-ENV a été lancé par la Ville le 5 mars 2026, considérant que les soumissions reçues ont été ouvertes publiquement le 26 mars 2026, considérant que les soumissions suivantes ont été reçues. Émile Mongrain, 63 450 $ et Trees and Beyond, 114 000 $. Cette résolution a pour but d'octroyer à Émile Mongrain, plus bas soumissionnaire conforme, le contrat de collecte et disposition de branches pour un montant de 63 450 $ avant taxe.
Merci. Do I have a mover to my right? Matt Stenberg, supported by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Mark, would you like to read the next?
Yeah, you bet. 3.7, renewal members of the Environment Committee. Whereas Resolution R 2022-06163 created the Environment Committee and appointed its members. Whereas the duration of the mandate is fixed at 2 years and is renewable, this resolution proposes to renew the mandate of the following persons to the Environment Committee for a 2-year term effective retroactively January 20th, 2026. Resident members Kirsten Bowser, Stéphane Desjardins, and Ariane Jonathan, who was sitting right there a second ago, which disappeared. Well, en français?
3.7, renouvellement membre du comité en environnement. Considérant la résolution R2022-06-163 créant le comité en environnement et nommant des membres résidents, considérant que le mandat des membres du comité est fixé à 2 ans et est renouvelable, cette résolution a pour but de renouveler le mandat des personnes suivantes au comité de l'environnement pour un terme de 2 ans rétroactivement au 20 janvier 2026. Membres résidents, Kristen Bowser, Stéphane Desjardins et Ariane Johansson.
Merci beaucoup. Do I have a mover to my right? Matt Stenberg, supported by Bob Johnson. Are there any objections to my left? There are none. It is carried unanimously. So thank you again for these members renewing their contributions to this most important committee, and we really value and appreciate your time. Item 3.8, awarding of contracts by mutual agreement and application of bylaws, APPROBATION. Whereas the town awarded a contract to APPROBATION Créatif for a maximum amount of $25,000, including taxes, for a resource in urban planning. This resolution is to appoint Luc Meunier as the authority having jurisdiction for the following bylaws, as well as all existing or future amendments: 364, 571, 585, 526, 527, 528, 529, 558, 559, 564, 568, 571, 617, 622, 642, 650, 652, 667, 709, 715, 722, 723, 733, 739, 743, 761, 770, 771, 772, and 779, and to appoint any other existing or future employee of APPROBATION Créatif in replacement of Luc Meunier as authority having jurisdiction for the bylaws mentioned above.
3.8, octroi de contrat de gré à gré et application des règlements APPROBATION. Considérant qu'un contrat de gré à gré a été octroyé à la firme APPROBATION Créatif pour un montant maximum de 25 000 taxes incluses pour une ressource en urbanisme. Cette résolution a pour but de nommer Luc Meunier à titre de fonctionnaire désigné pour les règlements suivants ainsi que tous leurs amendements en vigueur ou à venir. Règlement 364, 471, 485, 526, 527, 528, 529, 558, 559, 564, 568, 571, 617, 622, 642, 650, 652, 667, 709, 715, 722, 723, 733, 739, 743, 761, 770, 771, 772 et 779. De nommer également tout autre employé existant ou futur de la firme APPROBATION Créatif en remplacement de Luc Meunier à titre de fonctionnaire désigné pour les règlements mentionnés ci-haut.
Merci, Renée. So that long list of numbers is all of the bylaws that pertain to urban planning. Do I have a mover to my right? Bob Johnson, supported to my left by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.9, tabling of TPAC minutes, February and March 2026. Members of Council take note of the tabling of the Town Planning Advisory Committee minutes.
3.9, dépôt des procès-verbaux du CCU, février et mars 2026. Les membres du Conseil prennent acte du dépôt des procès-verbaux du Comité consultatif en urbanisme.
Merci. 3.10, tabling of monthly reports for permits issued, March 2026. Members of Council take note of the tabling of the monthly reports for permits issued by the Urban Planning Department.
3.10, dépôt du rapport mensuel des permis émis, mars 2026. Les membres du Conseil prennent acte du dépôt des rapports mensuels des permis émis du service de l'urbanisme.
Merci. Section 4, Administration and Finance. Item 4.1, approval of disbursements for April of 2026. And you're going to see in the payroll that I'll read out, the first payroll, there is a substantial difference between the two payrolls, as in the first one is the adjustment that was negotiated in the agreement, the collective agreement. So it is the adjustment to market, but also the adjustment with regards to percentage for cost of living. This resolution is to approve disbursements as of April 16th of 2026 with a subtotal of $1,258,150.07, with payroll number 6 at $505,452.53 and payroll 7 at $159,200.05 for a total of accounts paid of $1,922,802.65.
4.1, approbation des paiements Avril 2026. Cette résolution vise à approuver le paiement des comptes au 16 avril 2026 tel que présenté pour un sous-total des paiements d'1 258 150,07 sous avec 2 périodes de paye. La période 6, 505 452,53 sous et la période de paye 7, 159 200,05 sous pour un total des comptes à payer de 1 922 802,65 sous.
Merci. Do I have a mover to my right? Matt Stenberg, supported by Darren Legault. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. So we do really appreciate all the work that went into this negotiation, and we look forward to all the positive that can only continue to come forward through this, and glad that this step is done and that now we have competitive salaries that are in line with the market to be more attractive, but also demonstrate that we truly care for the well-being of our staff and the continuation of their work with us. Item 4.2, surplus and reserve management policy. So this is one of the items that was recommended and included in the action plan resulting from the audit performed by the CMQ, la Commission municipale du Québec. And Karine McDonald has been doing a fabulous job on basically ticking off all of those boxes in terms of what has been agreed that would be done in this action plan, and that progress is going really well. So here it is, 4.2, surplus and reserve management policy, whereas the Commission municipale du Québec, CMQ, conducted an audit concerning, among other things, the management of the municipality's accumulated surpluses and financial reserves. Whereas a part of the action plan submitted following this audit, the municipality committed to adopting a formal policy governing the management of accumulated surpluses and reserve funds. This resolution is that Council adopt the policy on the management of surpluses and financial reserves as presented, and that said policy shall come into force on the date of its adoption, and that the municipal administration be mandated to implement the policy and to ensure annual monitoring as part of the budget process and the presentation of the financial statements.
4.2, politique de gestion des excédents et des réserves. Considérant que la Commission municipale du Québec, CMQ, a réalisé un audit portant notamment sur la gestion des excédents et des réserves financières de la municipalité, considérant que dans le cadre du plan d'action déposé à la suite de cet audit, la municipalité s'est engagée à adopter une politique formelle encadrant la gestion des excédents accumulés et des fonds réservés. Cette résolution vise à ce que le Conseil municipal adopte la politique de gestion des excédents et des réserves financières telle que présentée, que la dite politique entre en vigueur à la date de son adoption et que l'administration municipale soit mandatée pour en assurer l'application et pour en faire le suivi annuel dans le cadre du processus budgétaire et du dépôt des états financiers.
Merci beaucoup. Do I have a mover to my left? I'm going to give Darren Legault, and supported by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There is none. It is adopted unanimously. So, merci encore pour tout votre travail. Je sais que c'est une étape importante pour nous. And I do invite anyone who's interested in, I don't know if there's a copy on the table, but to ask the town for a copy so that you can familiarize yourself with that. Item 4.3, Vaudreuil-Soulanges Wine Show and donation to the Vaudreuil-Soulanges Hospital Foundation. Whereas the 21st edition of the Salon des Vins de Vaudreuil-Soulanges benefiting the foundation de l'Hôpital Vaudreuil-Soulanges will be held on Wednesday, May 13th of 2026. Whereas the Vaudreuil-Soulanges Hospital is currently under construction and will serve the population of Hudson and the rest of the area. This resolution is to support the foundation, the Fondation de l'Hôpital Vaudreuil-Soulanges through the purchase of 2 VIP tickets in the amount of $175 each for a total of $350 for 2 members of the Municipal Council to attend the Salon des Vins de Vaudreuil-Soulanges on May 30th of 2026 and to authorize a donation of $1,000 to the Vaudreuil-Soulanges Hospital Foundation. So this is as per last year, I believe. This is just repeating what we had done in the past. En français.
4.3, Salon des vins de Vaudreuil-Soulanges et don à la Fondation Hôpital Vaudreuil-Soulanges. Considérant que la 21e édition de l'événement caritatif du Salon des vins de Vaudreuil-Soulanges au profit de la Fondation de l'Hôpital Vaudreuil-Soulanges se tiendra le mercredi 13 mai 2026, considérant que l'Hôpital de Vaudreuil-Soulanges est actuellement en construction et desservira la population d'Hudson, cette résolution a pour but de soutenir la Fondation de l'Hôpital Vaudreuil-Soulanges via l'achat de 2 billets VIP au montant de 175 $ chacun pour un total de 350 $ afin que 2 membres du conseil municipal assistent au Salon des vins de Vaudreuil-Soulanges le 13 mai 2026 et d'autoriser un don de 1 000 $ à la Fondation de l'Hôpital de Vaudreuil-Soulanges.
Merci. Do I have a mover to my right? Bob Johnson, supported by Matt Stenberg. Are there any objections to my left? There are none. It is carried unanimously. I know that this event, or attending this event, was well appreciated by 2 councillors last year. It is a great time to network with other elected, but also to get to know the other organizations, and I know that they enjoyed that opportunity. But it also, Hudson has a tendency to not attend those types of networking opportunities, and I think it's really good that we are seen and that we are seen as participating in the regional efforts to fund the hospital. Item 4.4, tabling Treasurer's Activity Report of 2025. This is for Elections Quebec. Members of Council, take note of the tabling of the Treasurer's 2025 Activity Report. En français.
4.4, dépôt rapport d'activité du Trésorier 2025, Élections Québec. Les membres du Conseil prennent acte du dépôt du rapport d'activité du Trésorier 2025.
Merci. Section 5, Town Clerk. Item 5.1, Mark.
With pleasure. Lot 6387313, decision to exercise a preemptive right. Considering bylaw number 762-2023 concerning exercising preemptive rights on the town of Hudson territory, whereas the notice of the municipality's preemptive right was registered by the town of Hudson on August 29th, 2023 under number 28242-326 in the Quebec Land Register. Whereas a notice of intention to alienate the immovable accompanied by an accepted purchase offer was sent to the town on March 2nd, 2026, whereas the town must notify no later than the 60th day following receipt of the notice of intention to alienate the immovable, its intention to exercise its right of preemption. This resolution proposes that the town of Hudson does exercise its right of preemption, that the treasurer be authorized to pay the required amounts within the specified timeframes, that this expenditure should be financed to the park and playgrounds allocated surplus, to authorize the town clerk or the director general to sign the necessary documents to proceed with the transaction, that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to the owner of said immovable.
5.1. Lot 6 387 313, décision sur l'exercice du droit de préemption. Considérant le règlement 762-2023 de la Ville d'Autun relatif à l'exercice du droit de préemption sur le territoire de la Ville d'Autun, considérant qu'un avis d'assujettissement au droit de préemption par la Ville d'Autun a été inscrit le 29 août 2023 sous le numéro 28 242 326 au Registre foncier du Québec, considérant qu'un avis d'intention d'aliéner l'immeuble accompagné d'une offre d'achat acceptée a été transmise à la Ville le 2 mars 2026, considérant que la Ville doit notifier au plus tard le 60e jour suivant la réception de l'avis d'intention d'aliéner l'immeuble son intention d'exercer son droit de préemption, cette résolution vise à ce que la Ville d'Autun exerce son droit de préemption, que la trésorière soit autorisée à verser les sommes requises selon les délais impartis, que cette dépense soit financée à même le surplus affecté parc et terrain de jeu, d'autoriser la greffière ou la directrice générale à signer tout document nécessaire à la transaction et qu'une copie de cette résolution soit transmise au propriétaire du dit immeuble.
Merci beaucoup. So several people have been asking us what type of due diligence we've done in bringing this resolution forward before we move to a vote. And so we have, asked a lawyer to review whether there was a conflict of interest with regards to the buyer and the seller connection. We've asked to do a buyer profile research as well. And we've also looked into legal risk assessment with regards to the deadline, but also in terms of what might this, the borrowing that was mentioned in the newspaper have as an impact with regards to this purchase and whether the land is indeed free of any lien and all that. So the land valuation, I mentioned that earlier to Benoit Blais. We've also done some review into that, and the flood zone, as mentioned, to Luc Dion. So we've actually really gone quite deep into this. We don't usually go as deep into these types of things. Also, council went for a site visit to make sure that this was clear to all of council as to what this represented. And on a map, as you saw online, I think it was Brian Gruber who had made a post, it represents close to half of the beach as we know it. So it is a substantial portion of that area. And I think it's important if we want to be coherent with our orientation, our vision, that this town be a place where environment is just as important for quality of life, but also for the quality of life of the future generations. So all this to say, I think that this is a sound decision that is being put forward to council, and I look forward to the results of this vote, and if council would like to make this a unanimous recommendation, we can also do that. But for now, let's start with who would like to move this resolution. So Reed Thompson, supported by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? There are none. It is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. And thank you, Vanessa, et merci à l'équipe aussi pour nous avoir soutenus. Ça n'a pas toujours été facile. On a eu beaucoup de questions à la dernière minute. And also, thank you to Brenda as well for reaching out and sharing some of her research with us. We never know if it was something that could have been a red flag for us, but we did do our due diligence with that as well. So definitely a community affair. 5.2, signature, authorization, release deed number 25922403, considering that a legal action was instituted by a resident against the town of Hudson in December of 2015 in Superior Court, file number 760-17-004155-159, whereas the said plaintiff filed an appeal against the judgment rendered by the Honorable Justice Stéphane Sansfaçon under Quebec Court of Appeal number 500-09-028-276-194, whereas a notice of legal hypothèque, so maybe legal lien, legal, en tout cas, je ne suis pas sûre que c'est le bon terme, là, legal, en français, c'est l'avis d'hypothèque légale, so lien, But anyway, legal hypothèque on a movable property resulting from a judgment was published by the Town of Hudson at the Land Registry Office for the Vaudreuil Registration Division on December 20th of 2020 under the number 25922-403. So this resolution is that the Director General be authorized to sign a release in favor of the said plaintiff in file 760-17-004-155-159 and 500-09-028-276-194, as well as any other document required for the cancellation of the notice of the l'hypothèque légale on a movable property resulting from a judgment published by the Town of Hudson at the Land Registry Office for the Vaudreuil Registration Division under number 25922-403. Merci.
5.2, autorisation de signature, quittance, acte 25 922 403. Considérant la poursuite entreprise par un résident contre la Ville d'Hudson en décembre 2015 dans le dossier de la Cour supérieure portant le numéro 760-17-004-155-159, considérant l'appel logé par le dit demandeur à l'encontre du jugement rendu par l'honorable juge Stéphane Sanson portant le numéro de la Cour d'appel du Québec 500-09-028-276-194, considérant l'acte d'hypothèque légale immobilière résultant d'un jugement publié par la Ville d'Hudson auprès du Bureau de la publicité des droits de la circonscription foncière de Vaudreuil le 20 décembre 2020 sous le numéro 25 922 403. Cette résolution a pour but d'autoriser la directrice générale à signer une quittance en faveur du dit demandeur dans les dossiers 760-17-004155-159 et 500-09-028-276-194, ainsi que tout autre document requis pour la radiation de l'avis d'hypothèque légale immobilière résultant d'un jugement publié par la Ville d'Hudson auprès du Bureau de la publicité des droits de la circonscription foncière de Vaudreuil sous le numéro 25 922 403.
Merci beaucoup, René. Do I have a mover? Darren Legault, supported to my right by Matt Stenberg. Are there any objections to this resolution? There are none. It is carried unanimously. Je viens de vérifier, c'est vraiment hypothèque, what is it, legal hypothèque. I'd never seen that before. Yeah. So anyway, good news, moving forward with, or closing that file, I think is a good way of putting it. 5.3, tabling of minutes of corrections, R 2025-10-243. In accordance with Section 92.1 of the Cities and Towns Act, the Town Clerk is tabling the minutes of correction concerning Resolution R 2025-10-243. And if we were to give a bit of a detail, it was with regards to an urban planning file where there had been unanimous recommendation by TPAC to refuse the file, yet Council had deliberated at the preparatory meeting and had intended on approving the file, so it's to reverse that. C'est bien ça? C'est pour le renvers. So we're correcting that, and this corrects the record, essentially. En français.
5.3, dépôt d'un procès-verbal de correction, R 2025-10-243, conformément à l'article 92.1 de la Loi sur les cités et villes. La greffière procède au dépôt du procès-verbal de correction visant la résolution R 2025-10-243.
Merci. 5.4, tabling of documents. The Town Clerk proceeds with the tabling of a petition received April 9th of 2026 concerning a request to repave Summerfield Street. Combien de personnes avaient signé?
Il faudrait que je vérifie.
OK, je vais le regarder, mais allez-y en français.
Alors, 5.4, dépôt de documents. La greffière procède au dépôt d'une pétition reçue le 9 avril 2026 concernant une demande de revêtement de la rue Summerfield.
I will look at it later and provide the information. Section 6, Human Resources, 6.1, April 26, April 2026, list of personnel movements, unionized staff hires and departures. This is for tabling. Members of council take note of the tabling of the April 2026 list of personnel movements, unionized staff hires and departures.
C'est 8, la réponse.
8. So it was 8 people who had signed the petition. This is, okay, merci.
6.1, dépôt, liste de mouvement de personnel, embauche et départ du personnel syndiqué, avril 2026. Les membres du Conseil prennent acte du dépôt de la liste de mouvement de personnel, embauche et départ du personnel syndiqué, avril 2026.
Merci. Item 6.2, appointment, Human Resources Director. Whereas, well, Darren, would you like to read? You like Human Resources.
Thank you. 6.2, appointment Human Resources Director. Whereas Resolution R 2025-08-194 confirms the hiring of employee 1074 to the position of Human Resources Director for the town of Hudson. Whereas the probationary period for employee 1074 ended on March 3rd, 2026. This resolution is to confirm employee 1074 in the position of Human Resources Director as her probationary period ended on March 3rd, 2026.
6.2, nomination directrice des ressources humaines. Considérant la résolution R 2025-08-194, confirmant l'embauche de l'employé 1074 au poste de directrice des ressources humaines de la Ville d'Hudson, considérant que la période de probation de l'employé 1074 s'est terminée le 3 mars 2026, cette résolution a pour but de confirmer l'employé 1074 dans son poste de directrice des ressources humaines, puisque sa période de probation s'est terminée en date du 3 mars 2026.
Merci. Do I have a mover to my right? Bob Johnson, supported by Matt Stenberg. Are there any objections to my left? There are none. It is carried unanimously. Darren, since you did that so well, you can keep going.
All right. 6.3, employee probation, April 2026. Whereas the personnel transfer list dated October 1st, 2025 confirms the hiring of employees 835 and 1055 to the positions of Journeyman 203 and Journeyman 208 for the town of Hudson. Whereas the probationary period for employee 835 ended on February 18th and the probationary period for employee 1055 ended on March 8th. This resolution is to confirm employee 835 in the position of day laborer 203 effective February 19th, 2026, since his probationary period ended on February 18th, 2026. Also to confirm employee 1055 in the position of day laborer 208 effective March 9th, 2026, since his probationary period ended on March 8th, 2026.
Thank you. En français.
6.3, probation employé, avril 2026. Considérant la liste de mouvements de personnel du 1er octobre 2025, confirmant l'embauche des employés 835 et 1055 au poste de journalier, fonction 203 et journalier, fonction 208 de la Ville d'Hudson, considérant que la période de probation de l'employé 835 s'est terminée le 18 février et que la période de probation de l'employé 1055 s'est terminée le 8 mars dernier, cette résolution a pour but de confirmer l'employé 835 dans son poste de journalier 203 dès le 19 février 2026, puisque sa période de probation s'est terminée en date du 18 février 2026, et de confirmer l'employé 1055 dans son poste de journalier 208 dès le 9 mars 2026, puisque sa période de probation s'est terminée le 8 mars 2026.
Merci. Do I have a mover to my left? Darren Legault, supported by Mark Gray. Are there any objections? There are none. It is carried unanimously. Keep going, Darren.
6.4, appointment Director of Finance and Treasurer. Whereas Resolution R 2025-02-31 confirms the hiring of employee 1064 to the position of Director of Finance and Treasurer for the town of Hudson. Whereas the probationary period for the employee 1064 ended on September 5th, 2025. This resolution is to confirm employee 1064 in the position of Director of Finance and Treasurer as her probationary period ended on September 5th, 2025. Also to add the title of treasurer to employee 1064.
6.4, nomination directrice des finances et trésorière. Considérant la résolution R 2025-02-31, confirmant l'embauche de l'employé 1064 au poste de directrice des finances et trésorière de la Ville d'Hudson, considérant que la période de probation de l'employé 1064 s'est terminée le 5 septembre 2025, cette résolution a pour but de confirmer l'employé 1064 dans son poste de directrice des finances et trésorière, puisque sa période de probation s'est terminée en date du 5 septembre 2025, et d'ajouter le titre de trésorière à l'employé 1064.
Do I have a mover to my left, Darren Legault, supported to my right by Matt Stenberg? Are there any objections to this resolution? There are none. It is carried unanimously. So here you have several key and quality employees that have successfully passed their probation period, and we are very, very fortunate to have them with us. Our Director of Human Resources, our Treasurer, and as well some employees as well that we saw earlier. I will move on with item 6.5, awarding of contract by mutual agreement and recruiting service for the Director of Urban Planning. Whereas the position of Director of Urban Planning is vacant, this resolution is to mandate the firm Humanitude to conduct the recruitment process for the position of Director of Urban Planning for a total of $22,000 before taxes, in accordance with the offer for services received on March 30th of 2026, and to authorize the Director General to sign said quote for and on behalf of the town.
6.5, octroi de contrat de gré à gré, service de recrutement, directeur urbanisme. Considérant que le poste de directeur de l'urbanisme est vacant, cette résolution a pour but de mandater la firme Humanitude pour la réalisation du processus de dotation visant à pourvoir le poste de directeur de l'urbanisme pour un montant de 22 000 $ avant taxe, le tout conformément à l'offre de service reçue le 30 mars 2026, et d'autoriser la directrice générale à signer la dite offre de service pour et au nom de la Ville.
Merci. Do I have a mover to my right? Matt Stenberg, supported by Bob Johnson. Are there any objections to my left? There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 6.6, update to the Supplementary Unemployment Benefit Program. Whereas the adjustment made in 2024, whereas the adjustment to the employment insurance benefit has increased, this resolution is to extend the Supplementary Unemployment Benefit Program to a maximum of $980 per week, and that the other provisions of the Supplementary Unemployment Benefit Program remain unchanged, and to authorize the Director of Human Resources to establish and finalize the terms and conditions of the Supplementary Unemployment Benefits Program with Service Canada, as well as any documents required to give effect to this resolution.
6.6, mise à jour du régime de prestations supplémentaires de chômage. Considérant l'ajustement que nous avons fait en 2024, considérant l'ajustement de la prestation d'assurance-emploi qui a augmenté, cette résolution a pour but de reconduire le régime de prestations supplémentaires de chômage à un maximum de 980 $ par semaine, que les autres modalités du régime de prestations supplémentaires de chômage ne soient pas modifiées et d'autoriser la directrice des ressources humaines de fixer et finaliser les modalités du régime de prestations supplémentaires de chômage auprès de Service Canada ainsi que tout document requis pour donner effet à la présente résolution.
Merci. Do I have a mover? To my left, Darren Legault, supported by Mark Gray. I almost said Mark Johnson, but Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. I am notorious for forgetting people's names, so this is an ongoing joke between us. Section 7, Culture, Recreation, and Community Engagement. So read, please.
7.1, Day Against Transphobia and Homophobia. Whereas May 17th is the International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia, and considering that the Pride season takes place throughout the months of June, July, and August, This resolution is to recognize the Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia, as well as Pride season.
7.1, Journée contre la transphobie et l'homophobie. Considérant que le 17 mai est la Journée internationale contre l'homophobie et la transphobie. Considérant que la saison de la fierté a lieu tout au long des mois de juin, juillet et août, cette résolution a pour but de reconnaître la Journée contre l'homophobie et la transphobie ainsi que la saison de la fierté.
Merci. Do I have a mover to my left? Reed Thompson, supported by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. 7.2, please go ahead.
Equipment loan request, Hudson Pride. Whereas Fiat Hudson Pride is a group created by Hudson residents, whereas Fiat Hudson Pride has requested material support for their July 25th, 2026 event, whereas the request does not fit in with Hudson's current policies, but that the town wishes to support the citizens' initiative, this resolution is to approve material support for the July 25th, 2026 Fiat Hudson Pride event, provided that the event is free and accessible to everyone.
July 5th.
Well, there's both dates in here.
Est-ce qu'il y a les deux dates? C'est parce que dans la partie basse de votre résolution, c'est écrit le 5 juillet, puis dans l'autre, c'est le 25.
C'est dans le français puis l'anglais.
C'est lequel?
C'est
lequel? C'est le 25 ou le 5?
Il faudrait que je valide, désolée.
Ah non, c'est bon.
So whichever day the Hudson Pride event is being held on, we would like to support it.
C'est bon. On a le temps, donc au pire aller, on fera une correction.
Avec plaisir.
So in French.
7.2, demande de prêt d'équipement Fierté Hudson Pride. Considérant que le groupe Fierté Hudson Pride est un regroupement créé par des résidents d'Hudson, considérant que Fierté Hudson Pride a fait une demande de soutien matériel pour la tenue de leur événement du 25 juillet 2026, considérant que leur demande ne cadre pas dans les politiques actuelles de la Ville d'Hudson, mais que la Ville souhaite soutenir cette initiative citoyenne, cette résolution vise à approuver un soutien matériel pour l'événement du 5 juillet 2026 de Fierté Hudson Pride sous la condition que celui-ci soit gratuit et accessible à tous.
So we will clarify that date. So mover to my left, Reed Thompson, supported by Darren Legault. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Section 8, Public Works. Item 8.1, awarding of contract AO-2026-06-TP gardening maintenance. Bob Johnson, how do you feel about that one?
Sorry.
C'est le 25 juillet.
So it's the 25th, we're clarifying. Merci.
Whereas a call for tenders by invitation was issued by the Director of Public Works on March the 30th of 2026, whereas the bids received were opened publicly on April the 22nd of 2026, whereas only one bid was received. It was the Jardinière Campagnard for $22,425. It is moved to award the Country Gardener, the only conforming bidder, the contract for gardening maintenance for the amount of $22,425 before taxes.
8.1, octroi de contrat AO 2026-06-TP entretien paysager. Considérant qu'un appel d'offres sur invitation a été lancé par le directeur des Travaux publics le 30 mars 2026, considérant que les soumissions reçues ont été ouvertes publiquement le 22 avril 2026, considérant qu'une seule soumission a été reçue, le jardinier Campagnard pour 22 425 $, cette résolution a pour but d'octroyer à le jardinier Campagnard, le seul soumissionnaire conforme, le contrat d'entretien paysager pour un montant de 22 425 $ avant taxe.
Merci. Do I have a mover to my right? Matt Stenberg, supported to my left by all three of them, I think. So Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 8.2, awarding of contract AO-2026-14 TP Professional Services for the inventory of municipal assets in preparation for the implementation of a CMMS system. Whereas the town operates various facilities, vehicles, infrastructure, and assets, roads, park, buildings, water supply, sewers, wastewater treatment, and it is necessary to maintain reliable information in order to plan preventive maintenance, reduce breakdowns, and optimize asset management. Whereas a structured and up-to-date inventory of equipment is required to populate the CMMS and ensure data quality. Whereas the public call for tenders AO-2026-14-TP was issued on February 25th of 2026 and published on SEAO, whereas the bids of the public call for tenders were opened publicly on April 1st of 2026, whereas the tender documents provided for a bid weighting and evaluation system, whereas TM Consult obtained an interim score of less than 70%, which is insufficient to allow them to have their bids opened, whereas the following companies submitted an offer, and after evaluation of the offer, the following point was awarded to Les Consultants AMCO, Inc., with a final score of 7.4 and a rank as first. This resolution is to award Les Consultants AMCO, Inc., the only conforming bidder, the contract for professional services for the inventory of municipal assets in preparation for the implementation of the CMMS system for an amount of $108,216.70 before taxes. This expenditure should be charged to the building allocated surplus.
8.2, octroi de contrat AO 2026-14-TP, service professionnel pour l'inventaire des actifs municipaux en vue de l'implantation d'un système de GMAO. Considérant que la Ville exploite divers équipements, véhicules, infrastructures et actifs, voiries, parcs, bâtiments, aqueducs, égouts, traitements, et qu'il est nécessaire de maintenir une information fiable pour planifier l'entretien préventif, réduire les pannes et optimiser la gestion des actifs. Considérant qu'un inventaire structuré et à jour des équipements est requis pour alimenter la GMAO et assurer la qualité des données. Considérant que l'appel d'offres public AO 2026-14-TP a été lancé le 25 février 2026 et publié sur SEAO, considérant que les soumissions de l'appel d'offres ont été ouvertes publiquement le 1er avril 2026, considérant que les documents d'appel d'offres prévoyaient un système de pondération et d'évaluation des soumissions, considérant que TM Consult a obtenu un pointage intérimaire inférieur à 70 %, lequel est insuffisant pour leur permettre de voir leur offre de prix ouverte, considérant que l'entreprise suivante a obtenu un pointage intérimaire de plus de 70 % et après évaluation de l'offre de pointage suivant lui a été attribué, les consultants AMMCO Inc., pour un pointage final de 7.4 au premier rang. Cette résolution a pour but d'octroyer à les consultants AMMCO Inc., seul soumissionnaire conforme, le contrat de service professionnel pour l'inventaire des actifs municipaux en vue de l'implantation d'un système de GMAO pour un montant de 108 216,70 $ avant taxe, et que cette dépense soit imputée au surplus affecté bâtiment.
Merci. Do I have a mover to my left, Darren Legault, supported by Mark Gray? Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. 8.3, awarding of contract AO-2026-07-TP, architectural services, renovation of a flat roof at the community center. Whereas the flat roof of the municipal building located at 394 Main Street, so here, is leaking, causing damage and posing a risk of further deterioration to the building. Whereas the call for tenders by invitation AO-2026-07-TP was issued by the town on January 23rd, 2026, whereas the bids of the public call for tenders were opened publicly on April 7th of 2026, whereas the tender documents provided for a bid weighting and evaluation system. Considering the following companies submitted an offer, and after an evaluation of the offers, the following points were awarded. The companies are J. Dagenet Architecture plus Associés Inc. for a final score of 31.4 and a rank of first, and Atelier Sens, SENS Architecture Fondamentale Inc. with a final score of 21.9, and they came in second rank. This resolution is to award to J. Dagenet Architecture plus Associés Inc., lowest conforming bidder, the contract for architectural services, renovation of a flat roof at the community center for an amount of $24,000 before taxes. This expenditure should be charged to the building allocated surplus.
8.3, octroi de contrat AO 2026-07-TP, services architecturaux, réfection d'un toit plat au centre communautaire. Considérant que le toit plat du bâtiment municipal situé au 394 Humaines présente des infiltrations d'eau causant des dommages et des risques de détérioration du bâtiment, considérant que l'appel d'offres sur invitation AO-2026-07-TP a été lancé par la Ville le 23 janvier 2026, considérant que les soumissions de l'appel d'offres ont été ouvertes publiquement le 7 avril 2026, considérant que les documents d'appel d'offres prévoyaient un système de pondération et d'évaluation des soumissions, considérant que les entreprises suivantes ont soumis une offre et après évaluation des offres, les points suivants ont été attribués. J. Dagenet Architecture et Associés Inc. pour un pointage final de 31.4 au premier rang et Atelier Sens Architecture Fondamentale Inc. 21.9 pour un pointage final de 21.9 au deuxième rang. Cette résolution a pour but d'octroyer à J. Dagenet Architecture plus Associés Inc. plus bas soumissionnaire conforme le contrat de services architecturaux, réfection d'un toit plat au centre communautaire pour un montant de 24 000 $ avant taxe et que cette dépense soit imputée au surplus affecté bâtiment.
Merci beaucoup. Do I have a mover to my left? Reed Thompson, supported by Darren Legault. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 8.4, Circulation Committee. Reed.
Installation of temporary speed bumps on Bellevue Street. Whereas the town has received reports and/or complaints regarding speeding on Bellevue Street, particularly during the summer season, this resolution is to authorize the installation of temporary speed bumps on Bellevue Street near the following addresses, 146, 136, and 106 Bellevue, for a trial period during the 2026 summer season in order to reduce vehicle speeds, and also to install signage to identify a speed bump as prescribed by the MTQ Volume 5.
8.4, Comité de circulation, installation de dos d'âne temporaires sur la rue Bellevue. Considérant que la Ville a reçu des signalements et ou plaintes considérant des excès de vitesse sur la rue Bellevue, particulièrement pendant la saison hivernale, cette résolution a pour but d'autoriser l'installation de dos d'âne temporaires sur la rue Bellevue à proximité des adresses suivantes, 146, 136 et 106 Bellevue, pour une période d'essai pendant la saison estivale 2026 afin de réduire la vitesse des véhicules et de procéder à l'installation d'une signalisation pour identifier les dos d'âne tels que prescrits au MTQ Volume 5.
Merci. Do I have a mover to my left? Reed Thompson, supported by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. It is carried unanimously. Section 9, Public Safety, there are no items. Section 10, Bylaws. Item 10.1, Adoption Bylaw 779.1-2026, amending Bylaw 779-2025 concerning security, peace, and good order, RMH 460. Whereas a notice of motion of this bylaw was given at the regular meeting of the Town Council held on March 24th of 2026, whereas there have been no changes to the proposed bylaw tabled on March 24th of 2026, whereas the The purpose of this bylaw aims to ensure security, peace, and order within the town of Hudson through a regionally harmonized municipal bylaw to ensure its enforcement by the Sûreté du Québec. This resolution is to adopt bylaw 779.1-2026, amending bylaw 779-2025 concerning security, peace, and good order, RMH 460. En français.
10.1, adoption règlement 779.1-2026 visant à modifier le règlement 779-2025 concernant la sécurité, la paix et l'ordre, RMH 460. Considérant qu'un avis de motion du présent règlement a été donné à la séance ordinaire du conseil municipal tenue le 24 mars 2026, considérant que le présent règlement ne comporte aucune modification au projet déposé le 24 mars 2026, considérant que l'objet de ce règlement vise à assurer la sécurité, la paix et l'ordre sur le territoire de la Ville d'Hudson via un règlement municipal harmonisé à l'échelle régionale afin d'en assurer l'application par la Sûreté du Québec, cette résolution a pour but d'adopter le règlement 779.1-2026 visant à modifier le règlement 779-2025 concernant la sécurité, la paix et l'ordre, RMH 460.
Merci beaucoup. Do we have a mover to my left? Darren Legault, supported by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 10.2, adoption by law 781-2026, Code of Ethics and Good Conduct for Elected Municipal Officers of the Town of Hudson. Whereas a notice of motion of the present bylaw was given at the regular meeting of the Town Council held March 24th of 2026, whereas the draft bylaw tabled on March 24th of 2026 has been amended as follows. Replacement of the term municipality by town in reference to the Town of Hudson. Whereas the purpose of this bylaw is intended to set forth the town's core ethical values and the ethical guidelines that must govern the conduct of any person serving as a member of the municipal council, a committee, or a commission of the town, or in their capacity as a member of the municipal council or another organization. This resolution is to adopt bylaw 781-2026, Code of Ethics and Good Conduct for Elected Municipal Officers of the Town of Hudson as amended. Do I have a mover to my right? Matt Stenberg, supported by Bob Johnson. Are there any objections to my left? There are none. It is carried unanimously.
En français.
Ah, je m'excuse. Oui, René.
10.2, adoption règlement 781-2026, Code d'éthique et de déontologie des élus et élus municipaux de la Ville d'Hudson. Considérant qu'un avis de motion du présent règlement a été donné à la séance ordinaire du conseil municipal tenue le 24 mars 2026, considérant que le projet de règlement déposé le 24 mars 2026 s'est vu modifié de la façon suivante. Modification du mot municipalité par ville dans le contexte de la désignation de la Ville d'Hudson. Considérant que l'objet de ce règlement vise à prévoir les principales valeurs de la Ville en matière d'éthique et les règles déontologiques qui doivent guider la conduite d'une personne à titre de membre du conseil, d'un comité ou d'une commission de la Ville ou en sa qualité de membre du conseil de la Ville d'un autre organisme. Cette résolution a pour but d'adopter le règlement 781-2026, Code d'éthique et de déontologie des élus et élus municipaux de la Ville d'Hudson, tel que modifié.
Merci. Donc, le vote a eu lieu. C'est bon? Oui. 10.3, bylaw 777-2026 concerning the establishment of a fund dedicated for expenses related to conducting an election and allocation of necessary funds, notice of motion and tabling. So this is in relations to the policy that we've just adopted, so now we have to create the individual funds. So I will need a councillor to give notice of motion that he would move or cause to be moved at a subsequent session of the council the adoption of bylaw 777-2026 concerning the establishment of a fund dedicated for expenses related to conducting an election and allocation of necessary funds and tables the draft. The bylaw aims to establish a fund dedicated to the financing of expenses related to the holding of an election in accordance with sections 278.1 and 278.2 of the Act respecting elections and referendum in municipalities. I think I saw a hand to my right. Was that Matt Stenberg? No, Matt Stenberg propose.
En français.
10.3, avis de motion et dépôt, règlement 777-2026 concernant la création d'un fonds réservé pour les dépenses liées à la tenue d'une élection et affectation des sommes nécessaires. Le conseiller Matthew Stenberg donne avis de motion de l'intention de soumettre pour adoption le projet de règlement 777-2026 concernant la création d'un fonds réservé pour les dépenses liées à la tenue d'une élection et affectation des sommes nécessaires et en dépose le projet. Le règlement vise à constituer un fonds réservé au financement des dépenses liées à la tenue d'une élection et ce, conformément aux articles 271.1 et 278.1 et 278.2 de la Loi sur les élections et les référendums dans les municipalités LERM.
And the counselor will be Reed Thompson. C'est Reed Thompson. 10.4, 10.4, bylaw 786-2026 concerning nuisances, RMH 450, notice of motion and tabling. I will need a counselor to give notice of motion that he would move or cause to be moved at a subsequent session of the council the adoption of bylaw 786-2026 concerning nuisances, RMH 450, notion of motion and tabling. The object of this bylaw is to determine what constitutes a nuisance and to establish the applicable fines. So the councillor to my left is Darren Legault. En français.
10.4, avis de motion et dépôt, règlement 786-2026 sur les nuisances, RMH 450. Le conseiller Darren Legault donne avis de motion de l'intention de soumettre pour adoption le projet de règlement 786-2026 sur les nuisances, RMH-450. L'objet de ce règlement est de déterminer ce qui constitue des nuisances et d'établir des amendes applicables au règlement.
So the counselor in this case, on l'avait déjà déterminé. 10.5, bylaw 728.3-2026, amending bylaw 728-2020 on the delegation of powers and budget follow-up and control of the town of Hudson. This is for a notice of motion and tabling. I will need a counselor to give notice of motion, so it's Bob Johnson. Gives notice of motion that he would move or cause to be moved at a subsequent session of the council the adoption of bylaw 728.3-2026, amending bylaw 728-2020 on the delegation of powers and budget follow-up and control of the town of Hudson. This is for notice of motion and tabling. The purpose of this bylaw is to apply powers to positions named in the town's organizational chart and to add the specific expenses.
10.5, avis de motion et dépôt, règlement 728.3-2026, modifiant le règlement 728-2020 sur la délégation de pouvoir et de contrôle et suivi budgétaire de la Ville d'Hudson. Le conseiller Robert Johnson donne avis de motion de l'intention de soumettre pour adoption le projet de règlement 728.3-2026, modifiant le règlement 728-2020 sur la délégation de pouvoir et de contrôle et suivi budgétaire de la Ville d'Hudson. Le but de ce règlement est d'imputer des pouvoirs de dépenses aux postes nommés à l'organigramme de la Ville et d'ajouter les dépenses particulières.
Merci. So 10.6, I believe that will be Mark, right? Councillor Mark Gray. So 10.6, bylaw 743.7-2026, amending parking bylaw 743-2021. This is for notice of motion and tabling. So Councillor Mark Gray gives notice of motion that he would move or cause to be moved at a subsequent session of the council the adoption of bylaw 743.7-2026, amending parking bylaw 743-2021. This is for notice of motion and tabling. The purpose of this bylaw is to amend the provisions regarding parking permits and parking on the private lots on Beach Street.
10.6, avis de motion et dépôt, règlement 743.7-2026 visant à modifier le règlement 743-2021 relatif au stationnement. Le conseiller Mark Gray donne avis de motion de l'intention de soumettre pour adoption le projet de règlement 743.7-2026 visant à modifier le règlement 743-2021 relatif au stationnement. Le but de ce règlement est de modifier les dispositions quant aux vignettes de stationnement et les restrictions de de stationnement sur les abords des lots privés de la rue Beach.
Merci beaucoup. 10.7, authorization to enforce municipal bylaws and issue violation tickets. This is for designation update. Whereas changes in the organization of the town, this resolution is to appoint the persons designated in Appendix A attached hereto as designated officers having jurisdiction for the enforcement of the bylaws listed below, as well as all their amendments, therefore enabling them to issue statements of offense.
10.7, autorisation d'application des règlements municipaux et d'émission de constats, mise à jour des désignations. Considérant des changements dans l'organisation de la Ville, cette résolution a pour but de nommer les personnes désignées à l'annexe A, jointe au présent à titre d'officier désigné pour l'application des règlements municipaux énumérés ci-dessous, de même que tous leurs amendements et ainsi leur permettre d'émettre des constats d'infraction.
Merci. Do I have a mover to my right? Matt Stenberg, supported to my left by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. So with regards to Section 11, other authorities, I don't believe there are any items. Number 12, or Section 12, new business, I will take the opportunity to answer officially the question that was asked to us ahead of last meeting, so I just have to find my notes. And I will do this in French, as the question was requested in French, and if you need a translation, let me know. So the question we received on, I believe it was March 23rd, ahead of the March 24th meeting, was toutes les villes des alentours qui ont des piscines extérieures ou intérieures offrent la baignade gratuite à leurs résidents, Vaudreuil-Saint-Lazare, Rigaud, Coteau-du-Lac, Valleyfield, Pincourt, etc. Les tarifs demandés aux résidents de Hudson pour accéder à la piscine sont élevés. Ils sont d'ailleurs aussi élevés que les tarifs non résidents pour les piscines des autres villes, parfois même plus. La ville de Hudson pourrait-elle aussi offrir la baignade gratuite à ses citoyens, vu le déficit d'infrastructures et d'activités pour les enfants et les familles et les fortes taxes payées? Cela me semblerait essentiel. Merci de prendre le tout en considération. So this is a resident from District 2 who lives on Hemlock. So in terms of the answer, merci, Madame Ferron, pour avoir soulevé cette question et d'avoir attendu une réponse réfléchie. Vous avez raison que plusieurs municipalités voisines offrent l'accès gratuit à leurs piscines pour les résidents. Le modèle de Hudson est différent et il vaut la peine d'expliquer pourquoi. Notre piscine fonctionne sur la base d'un abonnement tout inclus, 350 $ par famille, qui couvre non seulement la baignade récréative, mais aussi les cours de natation, de plongeon et de nage synchronisés. Pour les familles qui souhaitent uniquement la baignade libre, un abonnement à 120 $ par famille a été offert l'an dernier. Nous avons également une option à l'entrée et une carte de 10 visites pour les utilisateurs occasionnels. Ce que les chiffres démontrent, c'est que même avec ces tarifs, la piscine représente déjà un coût net important pour la Ville. En 2026, nous prévoyons 80 000 $ en revenus pour environ 336 000 en dépenses d'exploitation avant les investissements en infrastructure. La piscine n'est pas une source de revenus, c'est un service que la Ville subventionne de façon substantielle pour ses résidents. Alors que je souhaite que les familles de Hudson aient accès à leur piscine, je souhaite également être transparente quant au coût que cela représente et apporter tout changement de façon responsable. Après vérification auprès du Conseil, la demande de rendre l'accès gratuit n'est pas retenue pour cette année. Il est possible cependant que nous revisitions cette question lors de l'élaboration du budget 2027. Does anyone want me to repeat this in English? No. Donc, c'était ce que j'avais apporté in New Business. Does anyone else want to bring that? Et René, si tu veux, je peux t'envoyer la transcription, là, comme ça tu peux le mettre verbatim. So the second question period is now open, and we'll do the same going back and forth between. Please come ahead. So just give your name and what street you live on.
Bonjour, mon nom est Sébastien Dame, j'habite sur la rue Osekoa.
Oui.
Donc, Merci pour la séance, bien informatif. Donc, ma question est à propos des parcs. Donc, considérant que la Ville a tenu des consultations l'année dernière sur l'état des parcs et relâché un plan, Park and Green Spaces, Master Plan, considérant que le besoin de parcs est pour maintenant et que des fonds sont assignés sur le plan triennal, le TPI, considérant que des résidents du quartier District 1 ont initié une pétition pour récolter des signatures et que nous avons 46 signatures en date d'aujourd'hui, que la grande majorité des habitations à proximité du parc Willowbrook sont de jeunes familles avec de jeunes enfants, sachant que d'autres parcs sont en cours d'amélioration dans la ville, que des travaux sont en cours ou que des plans sont en conception. Ma question est de savoir de quelle façon le déploiement du parc Osekowa pourrait être accéléré, parc Willowbrook, et à quel moment est-ce qu'un échéancier pourrait être communiqué aux citoyens? Merci.
Merci beaucoup pour votre question. Est-ce que vous voulez déposer votre pétition auprès de la greffière adjointe?
Je vais aller m'informer. Je pense qu'il nous manque encore des signatures. On a commencé seulement la semaine dernière, puis on a 46.
Donc, on pourrait toujours table it, le déposer à la séance suivante, donc à la fin du mois de mai, si vous voulez. Par rapport à votre question, c'est une excellente question. Je me demande si on ne s'était pas échangé par courriel. Est-ce que c'est possible?
Oui,
à ce sujet? Okay,
exactement.
Non, je voulais juste m'assurer que c'est bien la même personne. Donc oui, vous avez raison, on a un plan des parcs, un plan maître ou un plan directeur des parcs et espaces verts. Nous avons aussi le plan triennal, le PTI, des investissements. Et ce qui est prévu présentement, c'est un investissement d'à peu près 300, je ne me souviens pas exactement, mais 300 000 par année. Et présentement, le parc sur lequel ces fonds sont concentrés sont à Cambridge Park. On est en train de compléter les déficiences pour le terrain de pickleball. Il y a 2 terrains qui sont là, mais aussi la remise, et on travaille aussi sur la conception de la remise en place des équipements de jeu qui étaient déjà là. Donc, en effet, la question se pose, quel serait le prochain parc, dans quelle séquence? Ça a été discuté à quelques reprises, mais jamais avec une prise de décision formelle. Je vous dirais que c'est peut-être quelque chose, je ne sais pas, on va regarder avec la directrice générale à voir si c'est quelque chose qu'on peut justement arriver à quelque chose de plus formel pour donner une notion aux citoyens dans quelle séquence on va s'avancer. Ce qui est difficile à Willowbrook, évidemment, c'est le fait que ce terrain-là, à ce que je sache, ne nous appartient pas encore. Je pense qu'il est encore entre les mains du promoteur, du développeur. Donc, c'est là on peut concevoir, mais ensuite, la mise en œuvre, c'est difficile. Donc, c'est une bonne question. Merci de l'avoir apportée. Puis, j'espère avoir une meilleure réponse pour vous le mois prochain.
Parfait, merci.
Bienvenue. I see that there are 2 hands online. So, Carol-Anne, please go ahead.
Good evening. Just a request, if I may, one that has been made in the past to Mayor and Council with regards to the access for walking dogs at Sandy Beach. Once you officially, I guess, open the beach, and obviously once the floodwaters recede, we had asked if it was possible that the limitation to dogs be changed to coincide perhaps more in line with school summer vacation, so that instead of closing it off to dog walkers from May, that we would only look at it perhaps from June 15th and then back on at the 1st of September versus, I believe we used to have it closed to us until October. So it's just a request that you take that into consideration. And then a quick question would just be, would a petition from the Hemlock residents make a difference to our paving schedule? Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. Matt, do you feel like answering your District 2 councillor? I'm teasing, I can do it. So with regards to the dogs' schedule on the Sandy Beach trails, the trails are open, right? The property belongs to us. The official opening is just so that we can promote that at a larger scale and also have a moment of celebration on that. But you can already walk there. However, I believe that the current bylaw that was put back in are the original hours, the ones that go from May 1st till, say, October 1st, or I forget what the dates are, but the ones that you know, Caroline. And I would say that, again, the conservation management plan process is the time to bring those items up. We're looking for consensus as much as possible, but to bring the entire community. And as you know, it's not everyone that has a dog. There's a lot of people who feel that the town is taken over by dogs and the trails are taken over by dogs. So they like to know that there's one area at least where they can go and, in theory, not run into a dog, particularly a dog off leash. So I know that that's still a sensitive topic, but it's good that you keep bringing it up, and I think that one of the best moments to bring it up is during the consultations that we will be holding during the conservation and management plan elaboration. With regards to petition for hemlock and paving and paving schedule, I believe that we are soon going out to tender for paving, and that paving is planned for the summer. There is a list of streets. I don't have them on the top of my head, but top of my mind. But when we do have those, we will certainly, there will be a resolution anyway, and I will read out each street segment and streets that will be paved, and you will know then what is being planned for this year.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Are there questions in the room?
Comme vous venez de parler de pavage, ça me fait penser que la rue Burchill, la partie du bas, on a plusieurs trous importants.
Les trous, habituellement, on va les adresser par du patching ponctuel.
Oui, mais on a hâte que ça soit fait.
Oui, mais c'est important de les signaler, je vous dirais, par des QS, là, des Quality Service, parce que là, ça rentre et ça va directement aux travaux publics. Donc, si ça ne fait pas déjà partie de la liste qu'ils ont eux-mêmes, ils vont s'assurer de l'ajouter. Mais il faudrait vraiment passer par le QS system. Merci beaucoup. I'm going to take the last hand online because we alternate, but absolutely, I won't forget you. Jim Duff, please go ahead.
Yes, I had a question that I want to get answered about the tax status of bylaw 782 and the eventual impact on that whole loan package for Sandy Beach and so on by the eventual if. I mean, I was putting the cart before the horse here, but the eventual acquisition of 2 Royalview. But the question that really came to mind just now is, what about dog walker status? If Hudson is allowed to walk its dogs, that would mean all 4.5 million people from the greater Montreal metropolitan community would have the right to walk their dogs by the same rules that govern Hudson dog walkers, correct?
Correct.
Well, that's going to be a fun thing to regulate. Anyway, the question, tax status, 782, 2025, 9.648136, the total amount, 10 million, let's say, and at 3.1% was to give us $121 per unit bill. Now we're going to add let's say 1.3. We might be able to get something a little bit better. You're only taking the first step, the baby step in this process. I know that, but let's just say, for the sake of argument, that we are going to acquire 2 Royalview as well. So how does that affect the whole loan structure?
So the loan bylaw is really as it stands. It is for the acquisition of the 7 lots. It does not include 2 Royalview, and we will not be opening that bylaw. So the loan stays, and the estimates or the projections are what they are. They will be updated when we secure the long-term loan bylaw, which we anticipate to be this summer. I believe we're going for that. We've had some decent news that we are able to transfer that short-term loan to the long-term loan soon, which is good news. I don't have in mind the actual projections in terms of, today's interest rate versus the ones that were calculated, but I'll try to put something together for the next meeting so that you have a better understanding on that. So I hope that answers you, but for the two-row view, it does not have an impact on that loan bylaw because it's coming out of a reserve. No.
So to understand that, you're not rolling it in with the other acquisition. It's going to become a separate financing package.
It's financed out of our liquidity, out of our reserves.
Out of our reserves, but we've already started. We've already got $2 million of our reserves towards Sandy Beach, so we're going to be putting another whatever the amount is.
So out of our,
So
I think it was the Parks Fund is where that reserve, so we're using the Parks Fund that had been set aside for improvements of parks and such, and we will, over the next few years, continue to replace or to renflouer that reserve. Replenish.
Okay, so again, nothing is being taxed back to the citizens right now. Everything's in bridge financing. You're saying that, I guess I hear you saying that we are not that far away from rolling it into long-term debt, actually into taxable long-term debt, but that's not going to apply to the 2026 budget, or is it?
No, it was never meant to be charged in 2026. We knew that the long-term debt would be, engaged this year. And as you know, then it only becomes taxed the following year. So you will see that line item show up on your tax bill in 2027. And it will be specific to Sandy Beach and not to Royal View. If you want, and I have Benoit sitting to the left here, but if you want, it's as though you've already been taxed for 2 Royal View. You've already paid for it ahead of time. So it's not that you're not paying for it. You already have.
Well, insofar as it's in our surplus, in our operating surplus, correct?
Correct, but we've allocated our surplus over the last few months since we've had Karine and Vanessa in place. So all of that sort of larger unallocated surplus that the CMQ had pinned its finger on has now been allocated in different reserves. So the one that is in parks is now that money we're using, or part of that money is being used for the purchase of 2 Royal View.
So there'll be no impact whatsoever on the tax, on total debt load, the total debt component of our tax bills?
So this will not be added to your debt load. However, as Benoit will remind me, money, it doesn't just fall from the air. It does have an impact on what we're spending in other areas. So we're having to spend less on other items that also needed it, but we're doing it over a longer period rather than a shorter period.
Right. And so there's no 40-year aspect to
No. It's paid ahead. However, remember that money could have been used for, say, other park involvements, such as Osakawa, for example, whereas that then how we finance Osakawa and further parks will then have to be rethought.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Yep, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Please go ahead.
Hi, Ariane Oakridge. Ariane Jonathan, sorry. It's just a really quick question because I didn't know about this. It's for Article 10.4, nuisances. I was wondering in Article 7 of that, I'm not sure how to say it, but yeah, it mentions not throwing anything in dans la voie publique. So I was wondering, I saw a lot of leaves and grass clippings this year. It's very new. First time I see that. Is that one of the things that people are not supposed to do? Like dumping their leaves in the street?
Transfer that question to you.
It's hard to, because it says matière nuisible sur les voies publiques or matière résiduelle.
I think c'est plus une question d'affichage. I think it was related to, est-ce que ça te dit quelque chose, toi?
I'm going to take down the question and get back to you.
Oui. So I do not believe that it applies to grass clippings. It was much more a question of they were trying to regulate offensive signage pointed in the public direction. That's what I remember from.
Well, it says
that
not to
section.
throw anything, garbage, branches, des bio, des matériaux de
So which
construction.
section are you looking at? I have
Article
it open.
7 on,
Section 7.
yeah, section.
Refuse waste and debris
Yes.
considered a new dump or throw. I mean, I think you'd have to be intentional and not accidental.
Well,
Start
it's 'cause
there.
we have large properties, so sometimes there's a lot of grass being thrown and leaves into the street. So I was just wondering if that was part of it, but
Again, I think it's just to avoid someone just leaving their stuff there and not taking care of it and having to lift it, right?
it's left
Each
there.
situation is specific.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right. Are there any more questions online? I'm just looking for my screen. Je vais regarder à Chantal. Est-ce qu'il y a une question en ligne? Oui. Veux-tu leur donner la parole? J'ai perdu mon écran. Je les vois. Is it Jim Duff
Yes.
again? It's an old hand. You're asking another question?
It's a new hand.
It's a new hand.
I want to go back to item 3.5, la demande de financement au programme croissance de la canopy. We're talking about the urban canopy, the urban forestry plan, and how we are going to put quite a sizable investment into that. I wanted to know what, if any, effect this is going to have on our council's adoption of a tree bylaw that said you had to have a minimum number of trees on your property, or at least if you had a tree chopped down, replaced, we would strongly encourage you to put a new tree in its place. Is that being honored at all, or do we let that go by the boards?
I don't see it as being connected immediately. And with regards to the cost, it is $35,000. I believe that's for the services of Nature Action Québec, or a part of it. But all this to say that if we don't get the grant, I wouldn't expect that we'll go ahead with that expense. But as I understand it, and I'll have Mark complete after I've given the brief intro, is that it's first to do an inventory of the urban tree canopy and to assess where the risks or where the weaknesses are, and then to provide recommendations or basically to devise a plan on how to better protect the areas that are at greater risk. And it's usually with regards to the variety of species so that they're not as fragile to disease or to drought or that kind of thing. But I'll pass now to Mark, because I'm sure they've talked about it in the Environment.
Yeah, in the Environment Committee, we were certainly discussing the tree policy and that tree bylaw that we have, going over it, not yet, but it will come down the pipe, but also invasive species in our forests that we have, tree maintenance, which was the issue by the Nichoir Woods. They couldn't manage it. So, and then, of course, revitalizing our tree canopy throughout the town on the main corridors is an area we're concerned about. So there's so many components to all-encompassing tree policy, but that's also falls in line with our conservation plan. So over time, we're working through this.
Would you say that it's more applied to public property?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't believe that it would have a direct impact on private properties and what is already set in the urban planning bylaws.
Because the reason I bring it up is because I'm seeing more and more examples, not just here in Quebec, but all across Canada, of people fighting over trees. And they say, well, we don't want trees anywhere near our property. Some people are totally opposed to having any tree shade, any kind of tree, even adjacent to their properties. And I'm wondering, are we going to go that road?
I wouldn't hope so. I think we are a tree community, but go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, there is a component to like residential trees as well. Like there's two separate parts within the tree policy as we're working through it, but I mean, nothing's concrete yet. We had recently discussed the town being involved in residential fights between dangerous trees, and there have been municipalities that have implicated themselves in that way, but it is not something that we wanted to get involved with whatsoever in terms of those, you know, inter-resident dangerous tree fights. But yeah, I get what you're saying with people not wanting trees, but we are a tree. This is one of our great assets in Hudson, is the trees that we do have, this sort of natural canopy. So yeah, I mean, if people don't want a treed environment, this is not the town for you.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
All right. Moving to the question in the room, so please go ahead, Helen.
So, Helen Kurganski, Corey Point. I want to really thank the council. It was a nail-biting moment to know how you were going to vote for the last piece of land to save, so that Sandy Beach could be saved, everything that was left to be saved in its entirety. I thank you on behalf of our citizens, present and future, and all the life and the environment and the quality of life that we have in it. Thank you for having made that decision and letting us, seizing the moment and the opportunity so that we can move positively forward. And I just wondered, going forward, you know, Hudson has tremendous people power. As we all know, we've accomplished for a small community of just a little over 5,000 people, a tremendous amount. In going forward for the Sandy Beach and for the conservation, for preserving our nature, and has the town figured out a way to harness this people power with the citizens, to get the citizens involved, so they're part of the protection and the conservation and the education and the stewardship of the lands that we have, not just Sandy Beach, but our forests, our tree canopy, our walking trails. Is there something in the works, or working with Nature Action to figure out a way how community could work together with the town?
I think at every committee level, we keep hearing about how anxious or ready volunteers are to provide their time and to get involved, get their hands dirty. I believe Sophia Fuga, our environment chief of division, is looking into something for the NCC lot, so that's the Clark Sydenham. I believe the town has received the conservation plan for that site, and that was one that she knew was reasonably delineated, so it would be easy to apply to. After that, how do we put that into place? That's something that it hasn't landed on our table yet, but we know it's coming. So it may be that, or it may be invasive species, on, you know, having some sort of work be involved in that. I know that we had plans on having a project on invasive species management behind the palliative care area. Unfortunately, we did not receive that grant, if I remember. Is that? Anyway, I believe that we didn't receive that. So that was one that was slotted for volunteers. But we're constantly on the lookout for not necessarily easy, but something that we can start with and figure out how would that work. We know that coordination of volunteers can be extremely demanding, and right now, you know, it is a very sort of busy time in terms of permits, and a lot of requests for information are coming in as well, so we're trying to manage the energies and the capacity of the organization as well.
So we have the organization. Is it possible to envisage something like in certain areas of town where we want to have a larger tree canopy, to have the plan worked out of what kind of trees we want, and then just have the citizens donate in memory of somebody, a loved one, in celebration of a birth, in celebration of something special. Have the citizens, you know, one tree at a time. We could get a lot of trees that way too. You know, just to start thinking outside the box for ways that we can achieve this goal of preserving and protecting our nature and harnessing the...
I think the conservation plan for Sandy Beach and that whole process of how that will be done in consultation with the community also will be an opportunity for us to better, and that's with Nature Action, who are used to working as well with volunteer groups. So I think things are changing, right? We're moving in that direction, but again, we have to continue to keep it manageable.
No, for sure, for sure. So how would you suggest that we go about it? I know that the Sandy Beach and Vivi River Conservancy is really wants to do something to continue making our difference. Is there a process?
So I answered one of their board of directors, right? Board of directors, anyway, earlier that I would be really interested in hearing what they have done in terms of up-leveling, I guess, or going out to other organizations that are similar, learning from them, seeing where the opportunities are in building that relationship with the town, having a better understanding what their expectations are, and just getting a better feel for that. But again, I think the right channel is the conservation management plan, because there will be consultations at large, but also consultations that are more specific to les parties prenantes, so the stakeholders groups. And that's where we can actually lock down to something, again, that will be easy. I tend to use the term plug and play, but something that is easy to put in place that requires minimal framework to keep it within bounds. Because as you know, the energy and the passion of people, they'll rapidly go in different places. I'll give you an example. I was in a meeting with the board of directors of the palliative care just before coming here, and they run with a lot of volunteers. But they say that one of the issues that they're having is that it kind of gets out of hand after a while. The volunteers presume that they can just go and buy new wheels for the equipment, or just go and repaint a wall without, asking permission. So I think that, all of that, we understand the energy, but somehow we have to keep it safe in terms of life and safety, in terms of work. Our insurances have to be engaged as well, but we have to make sure that they're working on our property. And as you know, a lot of our trails, a lot of these spaces are not, the boundaries are not always clearly defined. So there's a lot of things to take into consideration, but we all want it. The councillors keep asking for it. And I think we all come from a very strong volunteering background as well. So it will happen, and this year you'll start to see some channels opening, and hopefully we'll get something in place.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, are there any more questions? It is now 9:10 p.m. There are still 18 people online. There's about 15 in the room, I would guess. And if there are no more questions, we will move to the last resolution, which is Reed's favorite. Do you want to read it, Reed?
It's not my favorite. I love these things. Let me find the page. This is a very long document. Adjournment of meeting. It is moved that this meeting be adjourned at 9:10 p.m. En français, s'il vous plaît.
You have to get a mover in a second.
No, we have to do en français, and then we do the...
Levée de la séance, que la séance soit levée à 21h10.
Can I get a mover and a seconder? I would like a recorded vote, please.
Okay, is it a unanimous vote? No, ça va. Merci beaucoup, René. Thank you, everyone, for being with us this evening, and we look forward to seeing you in May during all of these events that are coming up. Take care.